Let's be honest. You didn't click on this video just because the title sounded interesting. You clicked it because you're tired. Tired of living with this quiet, painful thing inside your head. Tired of second-guessing everything you do. Tired of holding yourself back, even when you know you could do more, be more, live more. You've probably told yourself 100 times, I just need more confidence. You've watched motivational videos, maybe even tried saying affirmations in the mirror. You've heard the advice, just believe in yourself. But after all that, why does it still feel like you're not enough? Why does that same doubt show up when you're about to speak up in a meeting, try something new, or even share your thoughts with someone close to you? That's because self-doubt isn't about confidence. It's not something you fix by shouting positive things at yourself. Self-doubt is something you learned. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. You don't need more motivation. You need understanding. You need to know what self-doubt really is, why it shows up, and how to finally, truly destroy it. That's what this video is about. Let me confirm right away, this isn't clickbait. I know the title sounds bold. How to instantly destroy self-doubt forever. And yes, the transformation is real. But it won't come from a trick. It comes from the truth. In this video, I'll walk you through 3 deep ideas. Ideas you've probably never heard explained this way. And by the end, you'll not only see where your self-doubt came from, you'll know exactly how to take back control from it, step by step. Let's begin by asking the most important question of all. Why do you doubt yourself in the first place? When you were a child, you didn't walk around worrying about what people thought. You didn't stop yourself from singing, dancing, asking questions, or trying new things. You were open, curious, brave. You weren't worried about being wrong. You just were. So what changed? At some point, someone said something that made you question yourself. Maybe a teacher corrected you in front of the class. Maybe a parent made you feel like you had to earn love through being quiet or perfect. Maybe someone laughed when you showed emotion or passion. Maybe you tried something and failed, and no one helped you understand that failure wasn't the end. That's where the first seeds of self-doubt get planted. Not when we're adults, not when we fail at big things, but when we're young, when we're still forming ideas about who we are and how the world responds to us. If your truth was punished, you learned to hide it. If your joy was laughed at, you learned to dim it. If your ideas were ignored, you learned to question them. And over time, a quiet voice formed inside. Maybe I shouldn't speak. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'll mess it up. That voice wasn't yours at first, but you heard it so often, you started to believe it. You repeated it to yourself. And eventually, it became a habit. Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers in psychology, explained this process through the idea of the persona, the social mask we wear to fit in. We learn to hide certain parts of ourselves to gain approval or avoid pain. But the more we hide, the more we lose contact with who we really are. And self-doubt? It grows in that gap between who you are and who you think you need to be accepted. The more you perform, the less you trust. The more you hide, the more you fear being seen. And the more you fear being seen, the stronger the doubt becomes. Now here's something important. Self-doubt is not always loud. It's not always panic or trembling. It's not always fear you can name. Sometimes it looks like overthinking. Sometimes it looks like procrastination. Sometimes it shows up as perfectionism, or I'm just not ready yet, or I'll do it tomorrow. But underneath all of that is the same pattern. You're not trusting yourself. And here's where things get interesting. Self-doubt isn't always a mistake. In fact, at one point in your life, it probably kept you safe. When you were young, and someone criticized you or rejected you, your mind built a strategy. If I question myself first, maybe I can avoid getting hurt later. So, self-doubt became a kind of protection, a way to stay safe. If you don't try, you can't fail. If you don't speak up, no one can laugh. If you hold back, maybe no one will leave. It's a system. And once you understand that system, you can break it. Jung believed that in order to heal, we have to bring the unconscious into the light. That means looking at your self-doubt not as a weakness, but as a signal, a message, a part of you that's still stuck in a moment from long ago, waiting to be updated. Now let's take this further. What does self-doubt actually sound like? It might say things like, "You're not smart enough? Who do you think you are? Someone else is already doing it better. You're too late. You always mess things up." And again, the mistake most people make is trying to fight these thoughts with positive ones. But the better approach is to question where they come from. Ask yourself, when did I first hear that voice? Whose voice does it sound like? Is this really my belief, or one I inherited? When you start doing this, something powerful happens. You begin to separate yourself from the thought. You realize, I have doubt, but I am not doubt. I hear that voice, but it's not my truth. I feel afraid, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. And that space, that tiny gap between the thought and the truth, that's where freedom lives. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Right now, you are making it conscious. You're waking up. And when you wake up, you can start choosing a new story. You don't have to fight the doubt. You just have to stop letting it speak for you. You can say, I hear you, but I don't obey you. You can say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I've got this now. You can say, that might have been true once, but it's not anymore. The transformation starts here. But let's go one step deeper. Why do we stay stuck in self-doubt, even after we understand it? Because most of us are waiting for permission. We think that one day we'll wake up and just feel confident, that one day we'll have enough evidence, enough success, enough people telling us we're good, and the doubt will disappear. But it doesn't work that way. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. You don't become confident and then speak up. You speak up even when you're scared, and confidence follows. You don't wait for fear to go away before you move. You move with the fear. And that's what dissolves it. Because when you act in spite of doubt, when you take a step forward, even while the voice says, don't, you teach your nervous system something new. You say, it's okay to try. You say, it's okay to be seen. You say, it's okay to trust myself. And that lesson is what destroys self-doubt. Not instantly, like flipping a switch, but instantly, like flipping a perspective. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to the person you were before you learned to hide. That's not fantasy. That's real. and it's possible. So let me leave you with a small challenge. Next time you hear that voice, the one that tells you to hold back, pause. Don't argue. Don't obey. Just pause. And ask, who taught you that? Why are you here? What are you trying to protect me from? You might be surprised by the answer. And that answer, that awareness, is the first key to unlocking the next part of your journey. Because destroying self-doubt isn't about killing a part of yourself. It's about listening to that part long enough to set it free. Let's pick up where we left off. You now know that self-doubt isn't a personality flaw. It's not proof that you're broken or weak. It's simply a habit, one that was born in fear, wrapped in protection, and repeated so many times, it started to feel like the truth. And you also now know that the voice of doubt isn't really you. It's a survival system, outdated, overused, and in desperate need of rewiring. But that brings us to the next big question. If we can see the doubt clearly, why does it still hold so much power over us? This brings us into the next phase of understanding. And it starts with another truth most people never hear. Self-doubt is not just emotional. It's neurological. Here's what that means in simple terms. Your brain has practiced doubting you. It's repeated it over and over, like muscle memory. So now, even when you logically know something is fine, even when you've succeeded before, that voice still pops up. Why? Because the brain is wired for efficiency, not truth. Let's say every time you tried something as a kid, you got criticized. That created an emotional pain flag in your brain. The brain took that signal and decided, okay, trying new things equals danger. Let's avoid that next time. And from that point on, every time you try something bold, your brain automatically fires that pain flag, even if the situation is completely different now. It's not that you're weak. It's that your brain is trying to keep you safe, using old information. So how do we stop this loop? We start by building what Jung would call awareness, but what today's science might call reconditioning. This is where we introduce the idea of the inner critic. It's the voice inside your head that never shuts up, the one that always has something negative to say. You know the one I'm talking about. It says things like, "That idea is dumb. You're going to fail. Don't even bother. You don't have what it takes. No one cares what you have to say." Sometimes this voice sounds angry. Other times, it sounds cautious or even logical. But the goal is always the same. Make you hesitate. Make you stop. Make you play small. The worst part? Sometimes this voice even sounds like it's helping you. It says, "Let's be realistic." Or, "You just want to make sure it's perfect." Or, "Wait until you're more ready." But in reality, it's keeping you frozen. So where does this inner critic come from? Most people think it's just their own thoughts. But Jung believed differently. He believed that the inner critic is actually a combination of all the negative voices you've internalized throughout your life. Maybe it was a parent who was overly critical, a teacher who humiliated you, a friend who made fun of you when you tried, or society constantly telling you you're not enough unless you look a certain way, earn a certain amount, or act a certain way. These voices didn't come from inside you. They came from outside. But over time, you absorbed them. And now, your mind replays them on a loop, thinking it's protecting you. Here's where the shift happens. You don't silence the inner critic by arguing with it. You silence it by understanding what it's trying to protect. That's a powerful reframe, because it means the inner critic isn't evil. It's scared. It's trying to avoid pain. It's trying to prevent rejection. It's trying to keep you inside the lines where it thinks you'll be safe. But here's what your inner critic doesn't know. You've outgrown those lines. You're not a child anymore. You're not in danger anymore. You're allowed to take up space now. You're allowed to speak, to act, to try. So when the inner critic speaks, instead of obeying it or fighting it, you can start asking, what are you afraid of right now? Whose voice is this, really? What would happen if I didn't listen? And most of the time, you'll find that the thing it's warning you about isn't even real. It's just a shadow from the past. Jung believed that these shadows, these parts of us we reject or ignore, don't go away. They live inside us. And the more we push them down, the more they control us from behind the scenes. So what's the solution? Bring them into the light. Here's a simple exercise that can help. Next time you notice your inner critic showing up, do this. 1. Pause. 2. Write down exactly what it's saying. 3. Ask, who does this remind me of? 4. Ask, what is it trying to protect me from? 5. Then respond, kindly but firmly, like you're talking to a scared child. You might say, I see you. I know you're afraid I'll get hurt, but I'm not in danger right now. It's safe to try. That might sound strange at first, but it's one of the most healing things you can do. Why? Because it creates space. It breaks the automatic loop. It gives you choice again. And the more you do this, the less automatic that critic becomes. Now let's go even deeper. Let's talk about projection, another idea Carl Jung explored deeply. Projection is when you take something inside of you, like a belief, emotion, or fear, and see it in someone else. Let's say you doubt your intelligence. Then you meet someone confident, and you instantly think they're arrogant, or you assume they're judging you. That might not be true, but your brain projects your own self-doubt onto them. Or maybe you want to express yourself, but you're scared. So when someone else expresses themselves, it annoys you. Again, projection. This matters because projections block self-awareness. They keep you stuck in blame and shame. They make you believe that everyone else is the problem, when really it's your own inner fear being reflected back at you. So how do you deal with projection? You start owning what's yours. You notice when you're triggered by someone. You pause, and you ask, what part of myself am I rejecting right now? What am I seeing in them that I'm afraid to express in me? What does this reaction say about me? The answers will shock you, because often what we judge in others is exactly what we haven't healed in ourselves. And when you see that clearly, your self-doubt loses even more power. Why? Because now, instead of seeing the world as a threat, you start seeing it as a mirror. Every situation becomes a lesson. Every reaction becomes data. Every trigger becomes a teacher. That's how Jungian psychology transforms your inner world. Not by fixing you, but by helping you understand you. And once you understand yourself, self-doubt can't survive, because it only thrives in confusion. The more clearly you see your patterns, the more quickly you can stop them. Let's do a quick recap. So far, we've already uncovered how self-doubt isn't a weakness. It's not a lack of motivation. It's not even your fault. It's a pattern, built in childhood, repeated by habit, and protected by fear. You've learned to see it. You've learned to question it. You've even begun to create space between your truth and the voice of fear. Now, in this final part of the journey, it's time to take full ownership of that truth. Let's talk about something called the shadow. Carl Jung said that your shadow is all the parts of yourself you've rejected, not because they're bad, but because you were told they were. Maybe it was your anger, your ambition, your creativity, your sensitivity, your voice, your confidence. Somewhere along the line, someone made you feel like one of those parts was too much, not enough, or unacceptable. So you pushed it down. But what you push down doesn't disappear. It waits. And often, it turns into self-doubt. Because deep down, a part of you knows you're not living the whole truth. You're living a version of you, but not you. That's why the more you try to improve yourself without accepting yourself, the more frustrated you feel. Because you're not broken. You're just divided. Wholeness, true confidence, comes when you stop fighting yourself and start listening to the parts you've ignored. So here's the real work now. Ask yourself, what part of me have I been afraid to show? What's the version of you that you keep hidden? What emotion do you stuff down before it even rises? What truth do you water down so it's easier for people to swallow? That's your shadow. And the fastest way to destroy self-doubt is to bring your shadow into the light. You do that by noticing, accepting, integrating. Let me give you a simple tool for this. It's called name, frame, reclaim. 1. Name it. When you notice self-doubt, pause. Don't ignore it. Don't obey it. Just name it. This is self-doubt. This is fear speaking. Naming it separates the voice from your identity. That's step 1. 2. Frame it. Ask, where is this coming from? Is this voice protecting me or holding me back? What does it believe will happen if I show up fully? This helps you understand the story behind the fear. Most of the time, it's not logical. It's emotional. And it's old. 3. Reclaim it. Take one small action that aligns with who you actually are, not who your fear wants you to be. That could be saying what you actually think in a conversation, sharing something online that feels honest, taking a small risk even if you don't feel ready. Each time you do that, you prove to your nervous system, I can survive this. I can be seen. I can be me. And each time you do that, self-doubt gets weaker. Not because you're silencing it, but because you're outgrowing it. Now let's finish with this. Most people think confidence means feeling good all the time. But it doesn't. Real confidence is the ability to act even when you're unsure, to speak even when your voice shakes, to try even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Because confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about being honest. You stop doubting yourself when you stop rejecting yourself. So the next time doubt shows up, don't run. Don't fight. Just pause. breathe. Listen. Ask, what part of me needs love right now? What truth am I afraid of? What would I do if I trusted myself just a little more? And then, do it. Carl Jung also said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." You've done that today. You've looked inside. You've seen the roots. You've faced the voice. You've felt the fear. Now it's time to act. Not in a huge way, not in a perfect way, but in a real way. Because the person you've been pretending to be is tired, and the person you really are is ready. Ready to stop shrinking. Ready to stop apologizing. Ready to stop needing permission. You were never meant to doubt yourself this much. You were born whole. So here's the final truth. Self-doubt doesn't die in a moment. It dies in a decision. The decision to stop treating fear like truth, to stop treating your past like a prophecy, to stop handing the mic to the voice that never earned it. From today, let this be your mantra. I don't need to believe every thought I think. I don't need to follow every fear I feel. I don't need to prove my worth to anyone, not even myself. I was always enough. Now I choose to act like it. This is the end of self-doubt. Not because it's gone, but because you finally stopped giving it your life. And that is power. Now your turn. Drop a comment below and answer this. What would you do this week if you fully trusted yourself? Write it. Speak it into existence. Because someone else is watching this, waiting for that same permission. And your words might set them free too.